On this episode of Conversations with Leaders in CTRM, we'll be visiting with Mr. Russ Meyer, a partner at Capco. So stick around. Hello, I'm Patrick Reames with Comtech Advisory. Welcome back to another episode of Conversations with Leaders in CTRM Technology. Today we're visiting with Mr. Russ Meyer, a partner with the ETRM practice at Capco. Russ, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So let's just start with taking a look at Capco. For those that may not be familiar, although I think most are, viewers that are watching this video, can you give us an overview of what Capco does, and particularly as it applies to the ETRM practice?
Yeah, I mean, in general, most people know Capco globally as a financial services capital markets consulting firm. But we also do a lot of specialization in the energy space, and we have a group based out of Texas that focuses on the energy practice, everything from utilities and power generation and regulated retail to upstream oil and gas and production, transportation across oil and gas and even power, as well as trading and risk management, which is my specialty. And then we also have a renewables, green, and ESG practice. All focused in the energy space. So we have a number of customers, pretty much many of the largest players in the energy space are our customers.
Yeah. Anybody watching the news recently has seen particularly as it applies to energy, all the issues that have faced the marketplace, from supply chain disruptions to price volatility, and as you point out, ESG and other regulatory concerns. Given your broad customer base and your broad view of the market, are there any issues that you point to in particular over this last year that have been particularly challenging for the industry?
Yeah, I mean, certainly all of those affect ETRM customers, but the biggest effect, I would say, is the combination really of supply chain disruptions and price volatility with the situation in Ukraine and Russia, and folks having to basically say, I'm not taking Russian oil and Russian natural gas. So what does that mean? The people across Europe were struggling to get their energy needs met in the past year, and it certainly looks a little bit scary coming into this winter. And so at the end of the day, the price volatility is the biggest problem. There are people that are having to pay energy bills that they're having to make tough decisions on what else they spend their money on. And so I would definitely say it's price volatility. Certainly regulatory influences are causing costs to go up and limiting what energy trading companies can do. But the situation in Russia and Ukraine and the lack of supply availability and the price volatility is really affecting most folks. And that reaches over to the US as we export LNG and other commodities globally. And then certainly that affects Asia Pac, who normally would have a less volatile price point to buy those commodities. And now they're having to compete with Europe for some of those commodities as well.
Yeah. We've talked in the past, and you pointed out in other conversations that these companies are heavily relying on their ETRM systems to help manage their way through this volatile situation that we have, whether it's prices or supply chain disruptions. But we've also talked about companies seeking to de-risk their use of ETRM systems. Ending reliance on a single vendor, or ending reliance on a single point of failure for their managing their business. How are companies de-risking their ETRM technologies, particularly, and it's difficult during this period here, but nonetheless, I know that you're seeing different approaches to de-risking out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Customers are realizing that. And there's a lot of factors involved in doing this, but customers are realizing that they want more speed to reporting, more speed to solutions, and more speed to their data, and to be able to actually maximize their use of their data. They have all this data that's been sitting in ETRM and other systems. They haven't consolidated it and been able to maximize the use of that data and make it more informative and actionable data. So now customers are moving towards the concept of data lakes. and building custom solutions on top of the data lake. So they would export their positions, their prices, market data into a data lake, and even quantity data, meter reads, those kind of things, historical data, and to be able to create analytics on top of that data to create better informed decisions. It's a mix of creating data lakes, building Python solutions on top of the data lakes, or doing data engineering within the data lake to make the data more reportable, and then perhaps maybe making reporting off of a BI tool such as Power BI or Tableau or something like that. So in general, if they can get this as more real time, as soon as the position hits the ETRM system, it automatically will flow into the data lake without having to run a valuation process, which a lot of the older systems have a valuation process that might take a while. That allows them to build their own valuation process and their own engine that would then immediately give them results and reporting and actionable information from all of their data.
Yeah, yeah. Looking again at risk management, analytics, reporting, are you seeing any other approaches out there to de-risking rather than custom development, as you point out?
Yeah, I'm certainly seeing there's sort of ready-made solutions for risk reporting that are geared towards or gearing more towards the energy space. So it's essentially a bolt-on that would do some of this work for you and have some risk reporting ready to go. It just really depends on the customer and whether or not they think that the reports and the solutions they would have in those external ready to go jumpstart solutions would fit the needs or fill the needs that they have from risk reporting, exposure reporting, P&L, as well as any other analytics they want to do on top of their data. So I do see that trend happening. There are a few vendors out there who are really putting their foot in the marketplace that weren't there probably 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, speaking of 5 years, looking forward, 3 to 5 years, how do you expect users to change their approach to ETRM and how they deploy it, how they use it? Are there any substantial changes coming forward that you see in the market?
Yes, there's a lot of changes coming in the market. There are several companies who have gotten investment dollars to build out a more modern solution, and they're actively working that. Right, there's some really interesting solutions out there, both in the U.S. and Europe, that are coming to market, and some of them are already there. They're already at market, but maybe they're focused on one commodity or another. What that allows, and then there are existing customer or existing companies who actually built pretty good solutions around one commodity or two commodities. For example, there's a solution that's really good at power and renewables, and there's another solution that's really good at natural gas and reporting and credit. Right. So what I'm seeing is, in the old days, 15 years ago, executives really wanted to have all of their commodities, all their trading in one system, and not have to integrate and have that risk of failure between systems or integrations. But what that caused was failure inside the system, where a lot of customizations were built, and now you had, instead of managing an integration, you had to manage a customization, a whole suite of custom code for various solutions that became troublesome. And what that also did was made it very difficult to upgrade those solutions, and therefore customers would remain on a very old version for years and never upgrade it. And that was also expanded or enhanced by some of the vendors having being somewhat earlier in their release cycles and not having a good solid release out, so that customers would be scared off from those releases. But in general, what I'm seeing more of is executives are more willing to pick the best solution by commodity, and with a lot of those best solutions being on the cloud, taking advantage of cloud computing and having open APIs and open architecture, you now have the ability to much more easily integrate the solutions, as well as adding that to what we talked about with the data laking and de-risking the vendor by building your own risk solution. You now have the ability to kind of pick the best breed of the commodity solutions, deal to cash, and then also pick the solution that you want to go with, whether it's an out-of-the-box solution or building a data lake, data analytic, basically a data strategy to solve risk reporting, analytics, and exposure type reporting. So I do see that as a trend. People are starting to look at it. It's not overwhelming yet, but as more solutions become solidified and get to market, I think we're going to see more and more of that.
Yeah, yeah. No, and I would agree. I think we're seeing the same thing from Comtech, that we are starting to see people kind of break apart those monolithic systems and kind of reduce their vendor exposure risk there. So I think excellent point. I think that's all the time we've got, though, and I appreciate you joining us. It's been very very interesting and informative, Russ.
Well, thank you, Patrick. It's a pleasure being on.
Thanks a lot. So that's it for us on this episode of Conversations with Leader in CTRM Technology. For additional videos like this, or for our CTRM radio podcast, you can see the CTRMcenter.com website or our corporate website at comtechadvisory.com. Thanks a lot.